Welcome to the Budget Committee. It is 9 o'clock on the dot. My name is Deirdre Bartman. I'm chair of the committee. Today, we are dealing with the consideration and adoption of the negotiating mandate report on the revision of Revenue Bill 2 2023 NCOP, as well as 2 sets of minutes. Welcome to everyone. As usual, I'm going to ask that everyone just introduce themselves, members first. And I just want to say Eid Mubarak to our members, our officials, and those at home joining us on YouTube today. To my knowledge, we have not received any comments from the public for the bill that we need to consider and or include. I've not received any apologies from members for today. And I just want to check here quickly. We have received one submission which member America has asked to speak to. Other than that, I will then open up after for oral submissions as well. If the members could please introduce themselves, and then we will go over to the content. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, everybody.
Thank you. I had member Fra in America there.
Morning, Chairperson, and good morning to you and to the members of staff as well as to the rest of the committee members. My name is Lulama Mvimbi.
Morning.
Good morning, Chair. Okay, you can go.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, everyone. Kayla Murray, member of this committee.
Morning.
Good morning, Chair. Khalil Brankes, member of the Budget Committee.
Morning.
Good morning, Chair. Derek America, a member of the committee.
Morning. Anyone else? If none, then Ms. Kamesh Ahmed, then what we will do is we will now take the member America can then speak through his submission on behalf of the DM members, which we received before 8 o'clock as resolved last week, and then I'll open up for discussion on the bill. I'm going to assume that we don't have to go through all the rules and procedures for members again, given that we deal with this type of bills twice a year. But if you have any questions, please let me know. Member America, you're up.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ms. Kamish, for flagging the document. Chairperson, this is a document compiled by the DA caucus in support or not in support of the bill. So I'll speak to it. It's 22 pages long, but I will not go through all 22 pages. So I'll speak to the first page and in the last 2 pages. So here we go. So the 2023 Division of Revenue Bill, Chairperson, is one of those bills that cannot be viewed and considered in isolation of other proposed legislation. And it also cannot be considered without considering the preceding legislation and what the bill signifies for the future. The national government has allocated 41.5% of its national raise funds to provincial governments. This is up 1.2 percentage point from the last year's 2022 adjustment budget, with 10% being maintained for local governments. Particularly the Western Cape will receive close to 59 billion rand as its equitable share. Now this represents a 0.89% increase from the last adjustment budget, which is last October. This further equates to 10%, just over 10% of the total provincial equitable share for the 23-24 financial year. In addition to this, Chairperson, 14.4 billion rand in conditional grants, which represent an increase of 3.27% from the last adjustment budget, is also allocated. This further signifies and represents 11.35% of the conditional grants to provinces. This is a net total of 73.36 billion rand that the Western Cape will receive. So Chairperson, there was an increase of provincial equitable share for the 2023 adjustment budget to the 2023-24 of 6.723 billion rand. In the medium term, provinces are estimated to see an increase in provincial equitable share of 19.997 billion rand from 2023-24 to 24-25 financial years, before we see an increase for the 25-26 financial year of 26.771 billion rand year on year. Currently, the Western Cape, with the third largest provincial population size in South Africa, is receiving the fifth biggest, or shall we rather say smallest, share of the provincial equitable share allocation. Local governments in the Western Cape will receive 7.343 billion rand as its total, as its local government equitable share, which is an increase of 10.16% from the previous last year's adjustment budget allocation. So, Chairperson, in the medium term, local government is expected to see an increase of 9.4% in this financial year, 23-24, and 9.57% in 24-25 financial year, year on year. So Western Cape municipalities receive 7.61% of the total local government equitable share. So, Chairperson, if we go to this page 2 and right up until page 19, you will see the specific allocations per department and the various municipalities. So, Ms. Kamis Ahmed, I want you now, I don't think I'm going to go through all of those. It is there for members. It will be circulated, of course. I will go straight to page 20, which I will speak to, which is the position of the DA in relation to this particular bill. So, as a Democratic Alliance, we are of the view that the 2023 Division of Revenue Bill does not ensure that the Western Cape receive its fair share. The Western Cape receives the fifth largest and or the smallest share of the provincial equitable share amongst all the provinces, Chairperson. A government that has received 100% unqualified audit reports for all its departments, as the Western Cape government has for the 2021-22 financial years. We should be rewarded, or the Western Cape should be rewarded for the fiscal discipline with additional funding. Instead, the province is being punished with a 1.9 billion rand baseline cut in funding over the medium-term expenditure framework. The second round impact is on top of the 500 million rand first round impact, while the third round impact against the baseline will only become clearer during the 23 medium-term budget policy statement. The provincial equitable share formula, Chairperson, despite repeated calls from this committee, still receive several key areas as unfunded. Special needs learners are not taken into account for the education provincial equitable share calculation. There are no provisions for gender-based violence or safety. Also absent are criteria for good governance, which leads to incompetent governments being rewarded with additional funding, while provinces that have proven their ability to deliver quality services receive less funding. Overall, the Western Cape's conditional grant allocation over the medium-term expenditure framework will increase by 1.9%. Inflation reached 7.1% year-on-year in March 2023, up from 7% year-on-year in February 2023. This means that any increased allocation received that is below these figures is in fact a budget cut due to provincial equitable share data input. The Western Cape will see a 1.5 billion rand decrease in primary healthcare funding over the medium-term expenditure framework. Chairperson, the Western Cape has also been left far behind in the allocation of conditional grants related to health, with the province ranking 6 out of all provinces in terms of the district health grant allocation, and 8th for the National Health Insurance grant allocation. Home care patients is notably not included in the provincial equitable share formula, meaning that especially care for the elderly and disabled does not factor into health allocation for provinces. Chairperson, another area of concern in this bill is a substantial reduction that the province will see in grant allocation for education. The Maths, Science and Technology grant, which represents 19.37%, the Learners with Profound Intellectual Disabilities grant, and the Education Infrastructure grant all see less money coming to the Western Cape year on year. Despite around 88,000 of the 112,000 first-time students in the Western Cape over the past 5 years coming from the Eastern Cape, the Western Cape still receives around 600 million rand less than the Eastern Cape for education infrastructure. In addition, the Western Cape last year spent 100% of its education infrastructure grant, while provinces like the Eastern Cape and Mpumalanga have failed to do so. Last year saw the infrastructure fund redistributed to provinces like the Western Cape, who have the capacity and will use it. Still, the Western Cape only receives 5th most funding for education infrastructure, meaning that once again, the Western Cape is being punished for good governance. So, Chairperson, there are important education grants. The Western Cape ranks in the bottom half of all provinces by allocation, ranking 6 for HIV/AIDS life skill education grant, 7th for the Early Childhood Development grant, and 8th for the National School Nutrition Program grant. It must be noted, Chairperson, that the Western Cape was the only province to feed children at school during COVID. The rest of the country took the rest of the provinces to court for not feeding their children. And they won. Once again, this provincial government is being disadvantaged and punished for serving our residents. For human settlements, Chairperson, an area of great need in the Western Cape due to rising population and in-migration, the province will rank below both Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal in the allocations for the Human Settlements Development Grant. And the Informal Settlement Upgrading Partnership Grant receiving less than half of Gauteng's allocation in both instances. So the Western Cape also received the 3rd lowest allocation of any province for the Extended Public Works Grant, meaning that less money is available for job creation in this province. The mass participation and sport development grant, also chairperson, sees a 31.47% cut in funding year on year, with the Western Cape again ranking 5th for its allocation. So in terms of grants for agriculture, a massive source of employment in the Western Cape, the province ranks second last in the allocation of the Comprehensive Agricultural Support Program grant. The Elima Letsema Project grant and the Land Care Program grant. The allocations are comparable to those of Gauteng, a much less intensive agricultural provincial economy. So no new conditional grants to enable provinces to deal with the energy disaster have been created, chairperson. It must be noted that a total of 517 million rand in provincial and municipal disaster response funding remains unallocated. Should this money have been split equally between provinces, amongst provinces, equitable shares notwithstanding, each province would have had an additional 57 billion rand to mitigate the effects of load shedding on residents. In terms of the Western Cape Government energy response, this program would have roughly funded over the medium-term expenditure framework the entire 55.5 million rand budget for alternative energy to support SMMEs. Almost the entire budget of 60 million rand for emergency power packs or green hydrogen development. So, chairperson, according to Eskom's latest annual report, the entity had irregular expenditure of 67.1 billion rand in the 21-22 financial year. The Western Cape's entire 1.1 billion budget for energy over the medium-term expenditure framework amounts to less than 1.64% of Eskom's irregular expenditure. And yet, national government has seen fit to take on even more of Eskom's debt, rather than capacitating competent provincial governments to address the energy crisis on another front. So the Western Cape's provincial equitable share allocation is 58.9 billion rand. This means that Eskom's irregular expenditure could have paid for the whole Western Cape government's budget, with almost 10 billion rand in change, which is the equivalent of almost 10 Western Cape energy response plans. So, chairperson, in addition, this bill does not make sufficient provision for the public wage increase, which has been reported to be settled at 7.5%. With the result that money will need to be moved from service delivery targets to cover the higher than expected wage increase. The bill further allocated no money to fight corruption, and we know it's a big evil in our country. So the Division of Revenue Bill further reports that gross loan debt is expected to increase from 4.73 trillion rand, which represents 71.1% of our GDP in the 2023 financial year, to decrease to 5.06 trillion rand, which push up the percentage to GDP to 72.8% in the 2023-24 financial year. And it's expected to peak at 5.84 trillion rand, which is 73.6% of the GDP in the 25-26 financial year. So, chairperson, this all the while, Eskom will be bailed out with the to the tune of 254 billion rand. South Africa cannot continue to borrow to fund expenditure in this manner. The poorest people will have to bear the brunt and the biggest impact of this bill. This bill will bring more suffering and misery to the poorest people within South Africa due to it having become an incapable and corrupt state. So, Chairperson, it is for these reasons that the DA does not support this bill. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you so much. I just want to check with Ms. Kamish Ahmed. I didn't see any other submissions before the 8 o'clock deadline this morning. Have you received anything?
No, Chairperson. Thank you.
Okay, I will now open up thus for discussion on the bill and for political parties to put their views. Thank you. I see Member Murray's hand.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I'd like to propose that we adopt the submission from Member America, and as a result, Chair, I propose that we cannot support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other views?
Chairperson,
Member Mvimbi.
thank you very much, Chairperson. And obviously, I take note of the document that was presented by Honorable America, which I see it's a very well prepared document. It even has a bibliography at the end. So that means there's been quite a lot of work that has been put into it. It would have been good if maybe the document would have been maybe circulated to some of us as members of the committee, so that we could have maybe properly engaged with it. Now, if it's being presented only this morning, it's like a kind of an ambush now on it. While maybe if we'll have had time to look at it, maybe we'll have maybe been convinced about some of the aspects that are on the document. But obviously, having not had that opportunity, Chairperson, it's really difficult whether to support or not to support the document. However, to support the presentation that was actually put to us by National Treasury, that would like to support this division of revenue bill.
No problem. No problem, Member Mvimbi. I'm not sure if you had internet connectivity problems maybe on Thursday last week, but the committee did resolve that if members wanted to send in questions, for those questions to National Treasury to come in by Friday, and that if political party representatives wanted to make submissions, that be made to the committee by 8 o'clock this morning, so that the procedural officer has time to put the information before us for the committee at 9 o'clock. So that was the resolution last week. And I do know that this year was the first year that I was able to negotiate for programming dates so that members have more time to go through the bill and to consult the respective caucuses. But I take your submission noted, and I ask that Member Ms. Kamish Ahmed just also note your view. Thank you. Member Ngondlo.
Thank you, Chair. Unfortunately, I'm not sure, Chair, because I think the practice of the DA caucus through its members in the budget committee to sort of make this very long, well tabulated presentation is actually not new to this particular conversation. It has been done before. And because it is becoming a practice, I am sure we would need to then engage, and I support Member Mvimbi, because if, as Member Mare is proposing, that the submission in its entirety becomes is adopted as the negotiating mandate, then surely such a 27-page kind of a document needs to be shared with members, and including even when other parties, as the resolution of the committee would have done last week, Friday, so that at least all the submissions or all the individual inputs that are being made are actually given an opportunity to be ventilated by everybody. Because in the absence of that, we then get to be, bamboozled in one party position, because already there is a tabulation of many issues here, which if we were to put them into a discussion, surely we're not going to be able to conclude. So I'm just making that suggestion, Chair, that perhaps the budget committee must then take an approach that in this budget committee, we are making a proposition which I think is very positive and progressive, that parties during the DORA and all the budgets that we do, parties can actually make their submissions so that those submissions become what becomes the actual committee report and a negotiating mandate on behalf of this committee, so that there is consistency in our approach, and we also allow even the smallest parties that are members of the budget committee to also have the same privilege of making inputs onto the individual matters. So I just wanted to make that particular proposition in support of Member Mvimbi. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I do know in terms of this procedure, we have a similar procedure to the NA and the NCOP. We have given members of political parties the same amount of time since Thursday. And I do know that I've given members this year much more time to put these submissions together, because I was quite adamant with finding dates with the program that we're able to give members more time. And what we can do is we can look for the next procedure so that we can try and see in the next process how we can give members an opportunity so that we circulate. But the reason the documents are presented in the meeting is so that members can see what the other members are arguing for. So it's not a new procedure. It's also not a new procedure in the NA and the NCOP. All political parties have the same equal right to submit submissions. We did receive only one submission before the 8 o'clock deadline as last week's resolution, which is why Member America presented it. I saw Member Brunkhuis's hand. Member Brunkhuis? Okay, otherwise then I'll conclude then with what we can do with the next process then is we can then also then look for extra time for circulation in the next process so that we can keep being a progressive budget committee. Okay, I heard Member Mvimbi and Member Nkondlo's hand at the same time, so I don't know who's going first now. Member Mvimbi?
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Look, Chairperson, it's not about the procedure, Chairperson. I'll make you, and sometimes it's about us as members of the committee feeling part of the committee, and if need be, at some point, who knows, we might even have a unanimous position, either in support or not in support of the division of revenue. The fact that a practice is being done at the NA and even at the National Council of Provinces, it does not necessarily mean it's right. I'll give you an example, Chairperson. Recently, there's been an infrastructure bill on road and infrastructure bill, where as a committee, the Transport and Mobility Committee, we were unanimous in support of that bill because the manner in which it was presented to us was so convincing that not actually we were being lobbied, but the way you feel you have been part and parcel of it, there is no reason for you even to object to it. The reason we are actually even appealing to you on this one as well is that maybe in future when there is a view, we would like to know that we know at some point the majority rules, whether we disagree with it, but it will be good that at some point we can have maybe a unanimous position as a committee to say that this is what, because some of the issues that we are raising, it's not issues that we are actually diametrically opposed to or hostile to, but it's something that maybe if we can be engaged before time and will be actually taken through properly, it's something that might see this committee even having a unanimous position on the issue of the Division of Revenue Act. Thank you, Chairperson.
No problem. I take that note, and what we can do, Member Mvimbi, is we can look at the next process, how we can make it even more progressive, because I do consider the Budget Committee a very progressive committee. I just want it to be noted that the Infrastructure and Transport Bill, that I can't remember the full name, that was a provincial bill. This is a bill that comes from the NCOP, so there are different laws and rules that govern how we process the particular bills, which is why I mentioned the NA and the NCOP, because that is where, in terms of this particular procedure, we got the bill from. Member Brunkhuis?
Oh, thank you very much, Chair. Chair, am I audible?
You are audible. Thank you, Member Brunkhuis.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, from the Al Jama, we support the division of revenue bill from the National Treasury. First of all, we'd like to state that. Secondly, all the different communities in the Western Cape that has been marginalized over the years and haven't received their allotted share from the Western Cape government, I think they also feel the same like the DA feels today. That because they haven't received their allotted share over the years, many communities, they feel, that they are not included in the budget of the Western Cape. So if the DA also feels that they don't get their allotted share from National Treasury, then that is the same feeling here on the ground in the Western Cape, that many communities also feel that they are also not receiving their allotted share from the Western Cape government budget. Thank you very much. Chair.
Thank you so much. I've heard the four views, the views from the voting members, and mine is also to not support the bill. I see two more hands, Member Murray and then Member Nkondlo. Member Brankus, I'm just going to lower your hand. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I believe Member Nkondlo's hand was before me. Perhaps I can allow her to go first.
No, it was after you.
Apologies,
okay.
I see on my system number one, this little one hand and two hands. So I'm just going to go into that order quickly.
Okay. My apologies. I just want to go back to the conversation that was being had in terms of engagement on the bill. I think I agree. Ideally, as a progressive committee, we should be reaching consensus or a unanimous position. In my opinion, the position today comes as a result of prior engagement, so it shouldn't necessarily be seen as a bamboozle or a contrary position, because it is already what we've discussed and highlighted in previous meetings. And also, Chair, it is my opinion that today is actually the opportunity where we interrogate and look at different positions. So it would be my proposal that maybe for future, all parties can come with their prepared submissions so that we can have a proper discussion on those different opinions and try to reach consensus within the allotted time. It would have been helpful to see other submissions. And Chair, please correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is today we are submitting submissions on behalf of our party as opposed to the committee. So bringing that together today would have been very insightful. But I am, of course, open to making this a more open and robust forum. I would just like to have a clear indication of how exactly do we do that. Thank you.
Thank you. That is correct. This was the opportunity. The deadline was 8 o'clock if representatives wanted to send in their respective submissions, and then we go through them. And then as a committee, we indicate what we agree with and what we do not agree with. And then that goes into the negotiating mandate. Member Nkondlo?
Thank you, Chair. Two issues I just wanted to raise, Chair. One is actually in the division of revenue. I think there are two issues. One wanted to sort of reaffirm, which was raised by National Treasury. One, I think, is the move on the process on the litigations that could have been resolved through intergovernmental disputes. I think this is one intervention that needs to be welcomed, because one of the things that actually for years AG has been raising is the litigation costs that actually amongst the different spheres of government that the taxpayers' money has to cough up, because what is provided for in the Constitution, which is intergovernmental relations or intergovernmental dispute platforms to ensure that there is harmony and consensus amongst the different spheres, have actually been ignored at times at the expense of a taxpayer. So one would wanted to sort of reaffirm what has been raised as a procedure that Treasury would be putting into place to ensure that instead of this leak from the fiscus, where between national to province or local government, sometimes matters get to be litigated and run a long process, which could actually have been, managed through the intergovernmental relations. So it's one area I wanted to sort of welcome in that division of revenue. The second one is on the emergency housing grant, and once again there is evidence into how, especially the municipalities, and I'm aware there's evidence, I think, of more than 5 years the city of Cape Town could not spend this money, whilst local communities, I mean, if you consider fires that we always experience and floods in the likes of squatter areas in Khayelitsha, in Strand, Nomzamo, and many other areas, I think that move of actually finally having this grant being closed, and then the matter now will form part of the other grants. So this notion of synchronizing, I think, helps to see that National Treasury is actually looking at the spending or non-spending of these grants and starting to look at innovation of how, because at most, which one is the issue that one always argue, is that whilst there are problems of non-spending by municipalities or any sphere of government on these conditional grants, the problem is when such is done, when that money is moved or when that money is actually not given to that particular sphere of government, and it actually punishes the ordinary citizen or service deliverer. And that is why I'm saying I much appreciate what has been done. I think it demonstrates that National Treasury is actually following up on these grants and studying the spending and non-spending patterns and finding ways that actually the final matters. Because I think the one on the emergency grant, we've also seen even the National Minister putting out a circular on how there will be innovation of quick response on some of these emergencies. And emergencies that we deal with, especially if we consider the problems in informal settlement. So those were the two areas I wanted to sort of comment on and welcome in this division of revenue, and hoping as we go forward that the issue of non-spending of conditional grants, which actually even here in the Western Cape, I think about 10 municipalities have not spent some of the grants invariably, from the ones on electrification, to the ones on the roads maintenance. I think those, for me, the issue we should be putting also in the negotiating mandate is that whatever is being done in response to such, that the actual service delivery issue do not get to be compromised. I think if a municipality is not spending the money, there must be innovative ways of ensuring that what was the challenge that needed to be spent by that particular grant is actually not compromised. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I'm trying to think now in terms of ways to write that. If Member Nkondlo, if you don't mind, I'm gonna quickly read out what I've been writing here while you were talking. So the first one relates to welcoming the move on the process regarding litigation regarding intergovernmental disputes, and I think that was a particular section in the grant. The second one we could possibly write as welcome the review of criteria and objectives of conditional grants, such as the emergency housing grant being closed and forming part of departmental funding for better spending objectives. And maybe we can write the third one as that we welcome the clauses regarding tightening up of procedure regarding non-spending of conditional grants that go directly to local government municipalities. Would that be able to assist us in putting that in?
Yes, thank you, Chairperson.
Okay, let me just quickly type and WhatsApp this to the procedural officer. Ms. Kamish Ahmad, could you then put the information quickly into the document, and then we can just go through the making sure that we've written the mandate incorrectly. I'm going to quickly WhatsApp you this that I wrote from Conlo, then you can quickly put that into our document as well. Ms. Kamish Ahmad, do we need to give you a minute or two? Okay, let's take, is 3 minutes enough for you to put the document up for us?
Yes, Chair, I'm just, I'll wait for your inputs there, and then I will just add it
Okay,
in.
no, put it up so long. I'm just going to WhatsApp you what I've written from Conlo, then you can copy and paste onto the document for us so that we can then adopt the report. Okay, Ms. Kamish Ahmed, I've sent you those 3 sentences. So you must just also make sure that you use your nice English when you edit those 3 sentences for me. Okay, so let's just see. Okay, go down. So let's just put there the second paragraph to not support. You can put not support there, and we need to put in the minority view as well quickly.
Chair,
Or otherwise, what we could do is we could put the mandate at the bottom of the document after the reasons. Would that assist?
Chair, you're talking about this needs to go in as the format for the, we have to, this is the format for the report, that this has to stand out first, the support of the bill, and then the reasons thereafter.
Oh, okay.
The minority view is noted, Chairperson, after the reasons has been given. It is not, it is.
Yeah, after the last paragraph, let's just quickly put in those 3 sentences. The extra information. You can write the committee welcomes the clauses. No, not notes, welcomes. And then after disputes, the komma-punt thingy. But I don't know what that komma-punt thingy is in English.
Oh,
the dot and the little comma thing. Yes, that one. And then you can put the second in, welcomes the review. You can just put it in as a continuation of the sentence.
Yeah, I just wanted, Chair, I just want that, don't want to say welcome so many times.
Oh, okay, no problem.
Okay. Regarding the process, the review clause.
Yeah, and the clause is tight. Sorry, I was typing fast. You can write tightening, not tighten. E, yeah.
Tight.
Yeah, E-N-I-N-G.
Yeah, tightening up procedures regarding.
And just a comma point after objectives in the second sentence. Okay. And non-spending has a small n. And then you can do the little bullet point thingy that you usually do. Or you can even make it 1, 2, 3 if you want. Okay. Okay, let's go down. Okay, there's the minority view is indicated there. African National Congress and Al Jamaa expresses minority view to support the bill. And then the last page is just my signature. Could I please get a mover for the report that this is a correct reflection of the committee's discussions and putting of mandate? Member Murray.
Chairperson, before we adopt, can we relegate minority view to the following page?
To which page must we put it?
19, page 19.
So we must just put it on the next page so that it reads better.
That's
That's
correct.
fine. Oh, then it's not, oh, I understand. Then it's not just my signature on the next page. Okay, I get it.
Mm.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, Member Murray.
Chair, I'd like to propose that we adopt the resolution.
Thank you. Seconder for the report. Member America.
I second that, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you so much. With that, our negotiating mandate is thus adopted. Thank you so much. Ms. Kamish Ahmed will then deal with the process for sending this to the NCOP and for its tabling. We will now just have 2 documents relating to our minutes that we just need to adopt, please. Thank you. Now that's still the negotiating mandate. I think the first one is 27 March. Okay, we can just make it a little bit bigger, please. My glasses is not assisting me enough this morning. Just reshare it for us, please. Ms. Kamish Ahmed?
Chair, yeah, it's just jumping screen.
Okay.
Just sorry.
No
That's the-
problem.
Does it show, Chair?
Yeah, it shows you can just make it a
Okay.
little bit bigger for me, please.
Okay.
Thank you. Perfect. So this is the minutes of 27 March. Members can just check the attendance. Okay, we can go down. Okay, go down. Okay, if I could get a mover for the report. Member America.
The minutes,
First, I
Chair.
move that we adopt the minutes.
Thank you. If I could get a seconder for the minutes. Member Murray.
A second, Chair.
Thank you so much. Minutes is so adopted. Next set of minutes. This one will be the 19th of April. Okay. Members can just check the attendance there. Okay. Okay, next page. Okay, perfect. Short minutes. Mover for the minutes, Member Murray.
I move, Chair.
Thank you. Seconder for the minutes.
Second, Chair.
Thank you, Member America. The minutes are so adopted. Thank you so much, colleagues. With 13 minutes to spare, I would like to thank you for your engagement on the negotiating mandate. It's always a privilege to be working with you on legislation. If there's nothing urgent for now, if there are still any other requests for information, you're welcome to send it into the procedural officer so that she can send those into National Treasury, but we have not received anything extra in this regard. But with that, the committee is thus adjourned. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Chair. You too. All the best.